Hello friends, I am the Anti-Terrorist. Big subject today and a long broadcast, so I'll crack on. But before I do, I'd like to address one email in particular. I've been accused of spreading 9/11 disinformation, so I feel I just need to address that. Now, what the person is saying I said is that we should not be talking about 9/11 at all, and that's not true. What I actually said was 9/11 as proof of New World Order is not a plausible argument, and we don't have enough facts to back that up. Now, what I will say in addition to that regarding the 9/11 and the New World Order conversation is that it's a little bit like finding yourself on a train track with a high-speed train rushing towards you and spending those few valuable seconds of your life wondering if you were pushed or whether you just fell, instead of trying to get out of the way of the train or trying to have it stopped. Because the New World Order and all that it entails is that train. And we are looking around to see whether we were pushed in front of it or whether we just fell in front of it. So as I said last week, essentially someone has to come out of the woodwork and prove 9/11 was an inside job, because all the talking about it and all of the infighting about it is distracting us from the train that is heading our way pretty fast. This broadcast, I'm going to focus on the RFID chip. I'm not going to spend a lot of time educating you on what it is, because I think even the debunkers and the pro-New Worlders know exactly what it is. Let's deal with the cashless society first. I've had quite a few people tell me that a cashless society will never work. It's not going to be the case. Cash is always going to be in circulation, and what they'll probably do is they'll put some RFID chips in the cash. However, let me just show you a couple of clips from, say, Australia and England, for instance, where the cashless society is already beginning.
We're going to be talking about cash, or rather the lack of cash. A cup of coffee, a newspaper on the way to work, a sandwich at lunchtime. We carry around a lot of cash to pay for all these transactions, or we have to whip out our bank card and use a chip and PIN. What would you say if you could pay for all these things by simply touching a card to a reader? From September, major banks, including HSBC and Halifax, will be issuing bank cards which allow you to do that. Will your pennies be quite as safe as if they were in your pocket? Well, Ron Del Novo is Managing Director of Bank Machine. He joins me now. Ron, just explain how this would work. Would it actually come from, would it be a top-up system, or would it actually come straight out of your account?
No, it would be a reissue of all debit cards in the country, basically. There are about 70 million debit cards, and all of them would be reissued with this facility.
But there would be some kind of limit on how much you could spend on each transaction?
Well, to start with, they're talking about £10, but already there are financial services conferences taking place where they're debating, can this be increased to perhaps £75 without use of a PIN?
Now, there's obviously a security problem. A security problem? Is there a problem?
Well, it's a little bizarre, isn't it? Because the banks have spent years convincing us that we had to stop just handing our credit card over and signing, that it was desperately necessary to have PIN numbers to protect security. Now they're saying, well, we've done all of that, and we're going to go back, and we're going to actually have cards where you don't need a PIN number. I can't believe the banks are doing this for our benefit. I mean, that would be a bit like Alonso and Hamilton exchanging eternity rings. I think they're doing it for their own benefit to increase their profits in the end.
There is an advantage there, obviously, over cash. I mean, it is more convenient, isn't it?
Not as far as we can see.
I mean, you have a vested interest. I mean, you do represent the bank machines which put cash into your hand.
This isn't a turkeys not voting for Christmas story. This is about the public, and that's me and you. We actually use cash to pay for about 70% of all transactions last year. Cash is what people like using. The banks don't like cash because they can't make so much money out of it. They want us to have more and more plastic cards. We've got about 170 million plastic cards in this country now. That's more than enough. The public have always said, no, no, we like cards, they have their place, but we want to rely on cash. But the banks don't like that because there's not as much profit in cash as cards.
What could the banks do to convince the public, do you think, that this might work?
Well, they could do the same as Ken Livingstone done with the Oyster card. They could make things more expensive if you use cash. So if people go into shops and find Mars bars are less expensive when you use a card, that would be the kind of discount that might appeal to people. But basically, I don't believe they're going to do that. And from the survey we've carried out, the public don't want to use these cards. Only 15% of people said that they were very likely to use these cards. And that, of course, is borne out by the statistic that most transactions are still made using cash.
Will they have the option to say no, do you think?
No, they will not have the option, and that's another thing. 40% of people said they would like to switch this facility off. But at the moment, there's no plans to give them that option. They'll have to have this facility.
Did you hear that? You will have to have this facility. This is not an option. This is not an opt-in enterprise. This is something that you will have to take, or you'll have nothing.
3 million Australians are about to get next-generation credit cards that don't need a signature for small purchases. The tap-and-go technology can even be built into watches or phones, making for a much quicker trip to the corner shop.
No more PIN codes, signatures or digging around for loose change. Just tap and go. It's called PayPass, and it's a new way of buying the smaller things. Even fast food could become faster. The Commonwealth Bank is rolling out PayPass credit cards this year. Westpac is also trialling the new technology. Normal interest rates apply, but Australians are expected to embrace the change.
They find it quick and easy to use, really safe and secure, and a bit of fun.
And fashionable too. Though it will start with credit cards, PayPass can also be put in wristbands, mobile phones, even watches. And if the card is stolen,
our normal security processes will pick the unusual usage up and the card will be stopped.
if PayPass takes off here, there'll be a lot less cash around, and eventually there may be no need for it at all. But shopkeepers say they'll only take on the system if the price is right.
Depending on the charges.
Depending on the charges, they're trying to eliminate cash and control us all with RFID chips. And he's worried about how much the government are going to charge him to be able to use this technology. Mate, you don't have to worry about the charges. It's going to be free for you, Mr. Australian coffee vendor. If not free, it's going to be very cheap, so I wouldn't worry about that. Because they need to sell you this technology. They need to have you buy into it. So they're not going to make it expensive. It's going to be cheap enough so that all vendors are going to want it. And they're going to take it with open arms because it means they can rake in a few extra pence or a few extra cents per minute. Incredible. The cashless society is coming, whether you like it or not. You don't have much choice. They want to get rid of the cash because they can make much more money without it circulating. So let's kill that argument right now. No more questions about that, please. I think I've proved my point. There is a lot of information out there that will have you be sure, with no doubt at all, that the cash society is going to be here within 5 to 10 years. 10 years maximum. They want everything in place by 2012. That's a whole other subject. So let's look at the chip. And just to get you in the mood, let's have a look at one going in. Let's see how they fit one for you.
One there.
That sends shivers down my spine every time I see it. And you know what? There'll be people queuing up to get that done. Let's take a brief look at some of the propaganda and some of the conversations and the arguments they're using to sell it to us.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers in a brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
After 9/11, I was really concerned with the security of my family.
They have to find a better way to identify the bad guys, or the rest of us are going to stay home and watch the world go by on televisions. But we need some system for permanently identifying safe people. Most of us are never going to blow anything up, and there's got to be something better than one of these photo IDs, a tattoo somewhere maybe. The Saudis used an American device to scan the eyes of travelers. I wouldn't mind having something planted permanently in my arm that would identify me. If we don't do something, people are going to stop flying. If they stop flying, and I don't go to the Giants games, it means the bastards have won.
Do you know how to keep your children safe? We'll tell you tonight.
In the next year, you'll be able to use your teen's cell phone to locate them 24/7. Younger children will get a small global positioning device hidden in their wristwatch or backpack. And just around the next high-tech corner, an electronic chip like this that can be implanted under your kid's skin.
Is there anything, technologically speaking, that they can do that could help in a situation like a kidnapping? Is there, for example, a microchip, a watch, a tracking device we can use for our kids?
We are working on a product that we have called internally a PLD. PLD stands for Personal Locating Device. which is an implantable GPS for which our company owns a patent and can be implanted surgically in the clavicle area of a child or someone that you are interested in tracking. It is the first implantable microchip for humans that has multiple security, financial, and healthcare applications.
I have a question. Indulge me. Let's say that we're well into this whole chipping process, that you've decided that you're going to get your beautiful children chipped because you want to keep them safe. And if you have a beautiful son or daughter, as I do, you want to make sure that you know where they are. So you listen to the propaganda and you listen to all of the pro-chipping information, and you take your kids and put a chip in their hand or a chip under their shoulder or whatever it is, and God forbid one of them gets kidnapped. Now, it's been well publicized that there are only 4, maybe 5 places on the body where this chip is safe to be placed. I believe that the back of the hand is one of those places, underneath the arm, and of course the chip has to sit just underneath the skin. So it's not going to be very difficult to find it if you know where those places are. You just, it's a matter of feel. Look in the 5 places, have a little feel, and you'll be able to find the chip. What is to stop me, if I was a kidnapper, from just cutting it out? Little snip with a scalpel, just under the skin, it's not going to hurt a great deal. And then just hit the transistor with a hammer. How are you going to find your daughter then? Really, this argument with regards to keeping your children safe is not a plausible one. Anyone with half a brain could figure out a way to deactivate that chip or to cut it out. So I wonder how this RFID technology would fare against, say, an electromagnetic pulse. A highly charged electromagnetic pulse fired straight into the transistor. If something like this was applied to, say, my passport, and my passport had to be reissued every time the transistor failed, I wonder how long it would take for them to get fed up and give up on the technology. I wonder if everyone did that. If 4 out of 10 people turned up and their transistors were deactivated somehow or failed to work, I wonder if they'd give up on the RFID chip in the passport. Obviously that wouldn't work with your credit cards because you would obviously turn them off and you'd have no money. So during the early stages of this technology, because it will come in, there's no question, when I'm presenting my passport to the customs official at the airport and he scans my RFID chip, only to find there's no information on there, or that the transistor doesn't work at all, what is he going to do, arrest me? Or is he going to try and prove that I fired an EMP into it? Or is he just going to accept that perhaps the technology isn't quite perfect just yet?
Well, the security card that lawmakers are using at California State Capitol may not be as secure as everyone had hoped. In fact, one California lawmaker proved it can be hacked. That same technology is being considered for a national ID card. ABC 7's Capitol correspondent Nanette Miranda has the story from Sacramento.
Is this Assemblywoman Fran Pavley? Or is this her? The card reader that restricts access to the state capitol says it's this gentleman.
I was Ms. Pavley.
Jonathan Westhuse is really a security consultant hired by State Senator Joe Simidian.
It's my own design.
With a homemade antenna and a laptop, Westhuse was able to read radio waves emitted by Pavley's identity card, duplicate it, and then gain access to a secured area of the state capitol.
All that was done within a moments of time without me even being aware of it.
Simidian's experiment illustrated just how easy it is for a hacker to read those radio frequency identification cards, or RFIDs, from a few feet away.
If you can read someone's information and then literally in a matter of seconds clone their card and pass yourself off as them, imagine the mischief that people can do.
Because the federal government is considering using RFID for a national identification card, Simidian has several bills that would put a 3-year ban or restrictions on the technology's use until more protections are in place. The American Electronics Association opposes Simidian's ideas because encrypting the radio waves is possible.
And our argument is use proper protections. The level of security should directly correlate to the level of sensitivity.
California's Office of Homeland Security says RFID technology is already being used at possible terrorist targets like airports and nuclear plants, but with added layers of protection.
Fingerprints, retinal scans, along with a card is the only way that you're going to get into certain secured areas.
But with the right motivation, the hired hacker says anything is possible.
Money, access, or whatever, by cloning such a card, it's difficult to believe that no one would do it.
So the guy with the big brain there managed to clone a card from a few feet away. But that video is a good 2 or 3 years old now, so I suspect that the technology's gone even further and the readers are able to read from a lot further too. Now if you can read and clone a card from 30 feet or whatever it was, how difficult is it going to be for someone to clone your RFID chip, whether it's implanted or otherwise? Whether the security encryption is 128-bit or 75 gigabyte? There is going to be a lot of identity theft going on, and this technology is meant to prevent that. I can honestly only see it getting easier to steal someone's identity.
What's next? At the University of Bath in England, researchers predict big changes for consumers.
I think it is possible to free us completely of our wallets and keys using biometric technology, if that's what people want in 10 years' time.
In fact, it's already here. The latest home security locks use fingerprints to control deadbolts.
I can just see the news reports now, can you? And in rather disturbing news today, Mr. Johnson, who spent thousands and thousands of dollars to make his house more secure by using the new high-tech fingerprint technology, had his house burgled anyway. How did they get in? They cut off his fingers. Here's Tom with that story. So you're not a terrorist and you've nothing to hide. You pay your bills, you pay your taxes, and you have a chip and you're playing the game. This couldn't possibly affect you, could it? All of this legislation, this sharing of information between corporations, couldn't possibly hamper you. I mean, essentially you're a law-abiding citizen, right? Why don't we take a little tongue-in-cheek look at the possible consequences, even for you?
Pizza Palace, guaranteed hot in 30 minutes or it's free. This is Mary. May I take your order?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I'd like to order.
Is this Mr. Kelly?
Yes?
Thank you for calling again, sir. I show your national identification number is 610-204-999-8-45-54610. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I see you live at 736 Montrose Court, but you're calling from your cell phone. Are you at home?
I'm just leaving work, but I'm...
Oh, we can deliver to Bob's Auto Supply. That's at 175 Lincoln Avenue, yes?
No, I'm on my way home. How do you know all this stuff?
We just got wired into the system, sir.
Oh, well, I'd like to order a couple of your double meat special pizzas.
Sure thing. There'll be a new $20 charge for those, sir.
What do you mean?
Sir, the system shows me that your medical records indicate that you have high blood pressure and extremely high cholesterol. Luckily, we have a new agreement with your national health care provider that allows us to sell you double meat pies as long as you agree to waive all future claims of liability.
What?
Do you agree, sir? You can sign the form when we deliver, but there is a charge for processing. The total is $67 even.
$67?
Well, that includes the delivery surcharge of $15 to cover the added risk to our driver of traveling through an orange zone.
I live in an orange zone?
Now you do. Looks like there was another robbery on Montrose yesterday. You could save $48 if you ordered our special Sprout Submarine Combo and picked it up yourself. Comes with tofu sticks. Those are very tasty, sir. Good value, too.
But I want double meat.
Well, I'm sure you can afford the $67 then. You just bought those tickets to Hawaii. They weren't cheap, eh? Oh, but I see you checked out the budget beach bum at the library last week. Up to you, sir.
All right. I'll get the Sprout subs.
Good choice, sir. Gotta watch that waist if you're hitting the beach, eh? 42 inches. Wow. Man, I'd say tofu and Sprouts is, like, required.
That's how much?
Just between you and me, there's a $3 off coupon in this month's Total Men's Fitness magazine. Your wife Betty subscribes to that, right? Anyhow, clip that and it's $19.99 even. Whoa, looks like you maxed out on all your credit cards. Bring cash, okay?
Want to stop this from happening?
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, the RFID chip is a massive topic and there is a lot of information to assimilate. I couldn't possibly cover it in 2 10-minute blocks. I just wanted to give my opinion on a couple of aspects of it. What I suggest you do is look up a lady called Catherine Albrecht. She has a couple of excellent seminars on Google Video and YouTube. She knows a lot about the subject and she has a lot of insider information. She can provide you with a very steep learning curve on the subject, and I would certainly take the time out to educate yourself on this one. I'm going to finish off this broadcast with a little recommendation. It's a health recommendation, and I'm a huge advocate of alternative therapies. So what I recommend you do is that you go onto Google and do a Google search for a magnetic pulsar. Do a search for magnetic pulsar, and you will find 2 or 3 different companies that will provide you with one. Now, the good thing about this equipment is that it sends out a high-powered EMP, electromagnetic pulse, into your muscles or into your joints. And the warming effect of those magnetic pulses flushes blood into the muscle or into the joint. And if you've got rheumatoid arthritis, or you have rheumatism, or you have muscular tension, you will find that the EMP will resolve those issues for you very quickly. It's a wonderful piece of equipment. They usually go for around $200 to $300, or say £150, depending on where you're from. Or alternatively, if you look up to the right there, alongside my video, you will find a link to a site that will allow you to build your own magnetic pulsar, having bought all of the components from Radio Shack or somewhere like that. It really is a fantastic piece of equipment, and I'm sure, if you think about it, there are many, many uses for it. Thanks for listening.